What is going on, college basketball fans? Conference tournaments have officially started, and today I'm going to give you guys my top potential bid stealer from every single conference in college basketball. So I'm ready to get started. Just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy. A ton of college basketball content coming your way. You don't want to miss it. And yeah, guys, let's get started. So we're going to go through these conferences in alphabetical order, starting with the ASUN, American, then we'll have the ACC, the American East, all that good stuff in alphabetical order. So if you want to skip to a certain conference, you guys kind of know a good spot where you would need to skip if you're just looking for one specific conference, but we're going to go over them all. So some of these conference tournaments have actually started. Some of them actually are already in the semifinals that start tomorrow, but most of them will start this weekend or next week. So I'm going to give you guys some of my top bid stealers. Some I think that the top team or one of the top teams will win the conference tournament, but some of these are going to have some bid steals. It happens every single year. So which ones am I looking at? Which ones am I thinking could happen? And which one of these surprise teams are going to get a bid to March Madness? So I'm ready to get it started. Let's start over here with the ASUN conference. And this is actually one of the conferences where the conference tournament has already started, and we're already in like the semifinals. And we've already had some upsets, like Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Dolphins have already upset the top-seeded Eastern Kentucky Colonels. Insanity. I mean, literally the first conference tournament that started, and already 5-11 team in conference is upsetting the top team in that same conference. So they're going up against Stetson tomorrow. I'm pretty sure Lipscomb has already lost as well. So it's between not Eastern Kentucky. They're out. It's between Stetson, Austin Peay, North Alabama, and Jacksonville. So obviously Jacksonville would be the biggest bid stealer, but are they going to get past Stetson? I'm not so sure. I think if I were to pick a bid stealer out of here, I would go with Austin Peay. Of course, technically the top team's already out, so any of the teams that win this will be a bid stealer. I kind of like Austin Peay a lot. It would not surprise me if they got themselves a bid to the tournament, but of course I'm going to be cheering for these Jacksonville Dolphins. They knocked off Eastern Kentucky, so why not go ahead, win 2 more games, and get themselves a bid to the tourney. Next up, we do have the American East Conference, and this is one of those conferences where Vermont, it just seems like so much above the other teams, and Vermont has shown that they can win their conference tournament because they have done it the past couple of years. I think like 3 of the last 4 years, honestly. It seems like the Catamounts are always in March Madness, but if there was a team to do it, I think it would have to be UMass Lowell. Bryant, they have not had good games when they played Vermont this year, but UMass Lowell, I believe they are actually the only team to defeat Vermont in conference play this season, and I think that either that or they lost in overtime. I know it was close. Either way, I think if any team is going to knock off Vermont in the American East Conference Championship, it is going to be the UMass Lowell Riverhawks. So we'll see if they can do it, but honestly, I do expect Vermont to get it done. I don't think Bryant has much of a chance to come out. I truly believe it's going to be Vermont or UMass Lowell out of that league. The American Conference. This is a fun one, and this is one where I could definitely see a bid steal coming out of. I think that South Florida and FAU are probably locks. I think South Florida should be a lock. FAU probably is a lock. I think they're both maybe close to the bubble, but if they can, win a round or 2 in the American Conference, they can get an at-large bid. As far as my top bid stealers, I have 2. I think UAB could do some damage in the American Conference tournament. I mean, this UAB team with Eric Gaines, they have some solid players, man, and they were mostly dangerous at home this year, which is why I kind of worry a bit when they get into the tournament on a neutral site if they are going to be able to get it done. But UAB and also Memphis, I think obviously we know about Memphis. They got off to a hot start earlier in the year. They had a really rough patch. they're starting to turn up a little bit now. They got good wins over FAU and UAB recently, both of those coming at home for Memphis. But I do think that they have the squad, they have the experience to be able to possibly go on a run and win the conference championship in this league. I mean, obviously South Florida have a chance, Florida Atlantic has a chance. I think Charlotte maybe has a chance, although it would surprise me if they were the ones that come out. And then after that, I think it's Memphis and UAB have a shot. Teams like Tulane, aren't bad, even though Tulane's actually the worst team in the conference. Technically, I don't think Tulane's a bad team. I think they probably are better than Temple, UTSA, Rice, but North Texas maybe could make some noise. East Carolina, I doubt it. I think UAB is where the line crosses for me in the American, but that's actually a league where I could actually see a bid steal, either Memphis or UAB being able to win the entire tournament. So next up we do have, oh my gosh, a very, very fun league. The A10 Conference is a great league, and we need to see a 2-bid A10 because last year we didn't get a 2-bid. I think the past couple years we didn't get a 2-bid A10 league, but a couple years before that we were getting consistently at-large bids coming from this conference, and I think this year Dayton has an at-large bid locked up. So if anybody other than Dayton wins this league, I think we're looking at a 2-bid A10, which I think I would personally love. I think Loyola Chicago has a chance. Richmond obviously has a chance. They are first place in the conference. VCU has a chance. VCU is probably my top pick for a bid steal, but if you want to go very deep into this conference, my top pick for a bid steal out of the A10 would be St. Joseph's. I think St. Joseph's had an amazing start to the year. They kind of struggled a little bit when they got into conference. They were 8-9 in conference play, but I still think that they are a good team. And if they can get back to the way they were playing earlier in the year, I think that St. Joseph's could possibly be a team to get a bid steal out of this league. I think UMass and VCU have a shot as well. And then, of course, the top three teams, Dayton, Loyola Chicago, and Richmond, obviously have a shot at winning it. But if you want to go real deep, I think my top bid steal for the A10 would be St. Joseph's as far as a team that I think could potentially do it. Next up, we do have the ACC Conference, and man, do I have some potential bid steals out of the ACC, because when we talk about bid steals, it has to be a team that is not going to make the tournament at large, right? So North Carolina, Duke, Virginia's on the bubble, but we're going to give them an at-large for the case of this video. Clemson gets an at-large, but after that, Wake Forest is the bubble team. Pitt is, just out. Syracuse is just out. And those are really the three teams that we're going to talk about here, because honestly, after Wake Forest, Virginia Tech may be a slight chance, but I doubt it. NC State may be a slight chance, but I doubt it. I think we're looking at Pitt, Syracuse, Wake Forest, and I honestly think that Pitt probably has the best chance. I mean, this Pitt team is a very good team, and they have a good roster. I've kind of mentioned that throughout some portions of the season, but it wasn't until recently where they started to really turn up, especially in conference play. So I think that out of those three teams to potentially get a bid steal, because Wake Forest has been losing lately, after they beat Duke, which is a big win, everybody's like, okay, now they're in the tournament. They sold it. They lost 2 games now after that. They just lost to Georgia Tech. Wake Forest fumbled the bag hard to the point where they're almost going to have to win the ACC tournament to get a bid now. So out of those 3 teams, I think that Pitt might have the best chance. But I could see Pitt, Syracuse, or Wake Forest potentially getting a bid steal out of this league. And we've seen a team like Virginia Tech get a bid steal out of the ACC before, so we know it's possible. It can be done. Those are definitely the top choices for me. Next up, we do have the Big 12 Conference. And the Big 12, I don't see a bid steal coming out of this league. You think about it. Houston, Iowa State, Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas, BYU, TCU, Texas, and Oklahoma are all going to have at-large bids, right? Oklahoma may be closer to the bubble now because they've been losing, but they did survive against Cincinnati last night. So I think that they're safe for now. I think they're going to get an at-large bid. The only other team I could see possibly being able to win this conference champ tournament is Kansas State. But I really don't even see that happening. I think one of these top teams from Houston, Oklahoma are going to win the conference tournament, and it's probably going to be one of the top 5 teams. Maybe BYU can do it, actually, so I'm going to say top 6. And yeah, I don't see a bid steal coming from this league. Like I said, if I had to pick one, I guess Kansas State, because they do have Tyler Perry, they have Arthur Kaluma, they have a great head coach in Jerome Tang. It's possible, but yeah, I don't see it happening. I think one of these top 6 teams are going to do it, anywhere from Houston to BYU. Next up, we do have the Big East Conference, yet another conference where I don't really see a bid steal happening. I mean, UConn, Marquette, Creighton, I would be surprised if one of those top 3 teams did not win at all in the Big East tournament. But Seton Hall has a chance. St. John's has a chance. They are both bubble teams. Villanova and Providence also bubble teams, but they're more on the outside, I would say. Seton Hall just beat Villanova tonight, so I think that kind of secures their place and puts Villanova on the outs as far as March Madness right now, as far as bracketology, all that goes. I could see Villanova, Providence possibly winning it. You know, Xavier and Butler are not bad teams by any means, so they could possibly get a bid steal. So I'd say Xavier Xavier or Butler. You know, Providence, Villanova. I could see it happening, but honestly, I feel like UConn, Marquette, and Creighton are head and shoulders above the rest of the Big East. So I think one of those 3 teams are going to win it all. I would be very surprised if otherwise. So next up, we do have the Big Sky Conference. And yeah, we do have Eastern Washington, who's at the top of this league. I think that they are probably going to win this league, but I do have a bid stealer that I actually do like in this league, and that is Weber State. Weber State is a solid team, and let me show you this guy's stats. This guy, Dylan, what's his name? Dylan, I forget his name. I want to say it's Dylan something. Yeah, Dylan Jones. What a force to be reckoned with, man. 20 points per game, 10 boards a game, 5 assists per game, and 2 steals a game. Leading his team in every statistical category except for blocks. And he's a forward. Just an absolute force, man. Weber State has some good wins on the season. In the non-con, too, they beat St. Mary's at the beginning of this year. As you can see here, they beat Yale, which is not a bad team out of the Ivy League. Yeah, I mean, they are a force. Wyoming, a Mountain West team, not a good Mountain West team, but, that's a good win. And, yeah, so they had a close one with Eastern Washington right here, lost by 2 points. Like, I feel like they could beat Eastern Washington in the conference tournament. So, yeah, I kind of like this Weber State team. And if I had to pick a big bid steal out of the Big Sky Conference, I think it would 100% be Weber State. Dylan Jones is an absolute force, man. Underrated player that not a lot of people talk about. I mean, who's talking about Weber State, really? But yeah, I do like them a lot, and I think that they could win this. I think they could win the Big Sky tournament. So yeah, give me Weber State there. Next up, we do have the Big South Conference, where we do have the High Point Panthers in first place. And they've been losing, actually, recently. High Point has been losing a little bit recently. And this is an interesting one because, I'm going to just put this out there. High Point have lost to South Carolina Upstate this season. And as you can see on the screen, South Carolina Upstate is the worst team in the Big South Conference. So if the worst team beat the best team in the league this year, that does mean that literally a lot of these teams do have a chance at possibly winning this league. And I would say my biggest bid stealer would probably be, I like UNC Asheville a lot. I think that they could possibly do it. High Point could definitely, obviously win it. That wouldn't be a bid steal. But other than that, anything can happen, but it would be tough for me to predict anyone other than the top two teams from the Big South to win it. Here, I'm going to go with UNC Asheville here out of the Big South. Next up, we do have the Big Ten, and here we do have another Power 6 conference, so we do have to go over the teams that already have an at-large bid, which would be Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. Iowa's on the bubble. Minnesota, not really that close to the bubble. I would say my biggest bid stealer for the Big Ten, though, would have to be Ohio State. It would have to be Ohio State. They have been playing so good recently, man, and knocked off Purdue, knocked off Michigan State on the road. They've been playing so good since they fired their head coach. Now they have the interim head coach. If I had to pick a team, it would probably be between them, Minnesota, and Iowa, as far as teams that don't have a lock bid right now. I think I would go with Ohio State, though. I think out of those three teams, give me Ohio State. Biggest bid steal potential out of the Big Ten Conference Tournament. Next up, we do have the Big West Conference, where we do have, I looked it over before this video. Shout out to the Cal Poly Mustangs. To be 0-18 in the Big West Conference that honestly just deserves a round of applause. Wow. I just had to throw that out there. But I do think it's between the top three teams. UC Irvine, UC San Diego, and UC Davis. You do have to watch out for UC Santa Barbara. They have made the tournament the past couple of years. They're always going to be sneaky. But I would have to give my biggest bid steal to probably UC Davis. I do think it is UC Irvine's year, though. I think it's UC Irvine's year. They've been playing very good in this conference. They really only lost at home in conference play this year, as you can see. They really only lost on the road in conference play, or really all year. Overall, they are 12-0 at home this year. I think they're going to be a force, man. I think they're going to be a force in this conference. I think UC Irvine is coming out this year, and we've seen UC Irvine be able to upset some teams when they get into March Madness over the past few years. The Coastal Athletic Conference, the CAA. Wow, this is a conference that has a lot of bid steal potential, and I love it, man. I love it. Charleston is the top team right now, but Drexel, Hofstra, UNC Wilmington, Townsend, even Delaware has a chance, man. I think Charleston, obviously the favorite. They're probably the best team. They're on a 9-game win streak right now. They are a force, man. I think the Drexel Dragons, you cannot sleep on them, though. You definitely cannot sleep on them. Biggest bid steal, though, I'm going to have to go with UNC Wilmington. I just think they're a solid team. And yeah, I'd have to go with them, man. I'd have to go with them. Other than taking one of the top two teams, I got to go with UNC Wilmington here in the Coastal. As far as bid steal potential, I think they got it, man. Conference USA. Conference USA is not that interesting, honestly, to me. Obviously anyone could win this conference, but if it's not Sam Houston or La Tech, and I actually think that Sam Houston, since they... it's Sam Houston or La Tech. Western Kentucky could be sneaky, don't get me wrong, but I think it's between one of the top two teams. I would be surprised if it's not La Tech or Sam Houston. So, yeah. And then we have one team in Independence, which is Chicago State, which is, wow, hilarious. Someone get them in a conference. They have no shot at getting an at-large bid ever, so get them in a conference so they have a chance. Horizon League, a very fun league. The Youngstown State Penguins have been fun to watch the past few years. They were supposed to make the tournament last year, but they got upset in the conference tournament. and let's see if they can get in this year. I think they are one of those teams where the conference tournament did start already. Oakland's still in it. Youngstown State is still in it. I believe, who else is still in it? Purdue Fort Wayne is still in it. Cleveland State's still in it. And that kind of brings me to my next point, man. I think Purdue Fort Wayne is my biggest bid steal in the Horizon League. And when you look at this league top to bottom, look at the conference win-losses. Very, very close. I mean, all the way down to Purdue Fort Wayne, you have a team that's 11-9 in conference play. They are my top bid stealer in the Horizon. I would love to see Youngstown State get in, or Oakland, honestly, because they both have been pretty decent the past couple of years and just unable to get in, especially Youngstown State. But I like Purdue Fort Wayne, man. They were a very good team, start of the year. I feel like conference play, they started taking some losses, but definitely a team to look out for here as a bid stealer. Ivy League. This is a league where I would be absolutely just very surprised if it was not one of the top three teams, and Princeton, Yale, or Cornell. I mean, I guess my biggest bid stealer would be Cornell, because technically they're third in the league. But if it's not one of those three teams, I would be very, very, very surprised. And I think it's going to be Princeton. I think Princeton is a very good team, and I would be surprised. But I think it's them, Yale, or Cornell, for sure, out of the Ivy League. Next up, we do have the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, otherwise known as the MEAC Conference. We have Quinnipiac in first place. Fairfield is there in second. St. Peter's is there. Marist is there. Ryder is there. Some decent teams, definitely some decent teams in there. Quinnipiac has been losing some games lately. I will say that, and I honestly think my top bid stealer in this conference, I would love to go with St. Peter's, just because St. Peter's, the legendary run, it's hard to not be a fan of them after that. But I'm going to go with Marist. I'm going to go with the Marist Red Foxes. Decent in conference play. I think that it's possible they could get it done. And yeah, they just beat Fairfield recently, which is the second team in their league, second placer in their league. And yeah, I think that they could knock off Quinnipiac. A lot of teams have as of late in conference play, so I definitely don't think that they are a team that is just going to absolutely run through the conference tournament whatsoever. I definitely think this is a league where we do see a bid steal. Which team is it going to be? I don't know. Could be Marist, though. Next up, we do have the MAAC Conference. I love me some MAACtion. Let's see what we got here. And honestly, I'm feeling Ohio. I think Ohio's a solid team. They beat Akron this year. I know that for a fact. They almost beat Toledo this year. I think they lost by like 2 points. They're on a 5-game win streak right now. The Ohio Bobcats are a team that could win the MAAC Conference. And you got to look out for Ohio, because when they do make March Madness, they usually are able to make some noise, or at least have a close game with somebody. So I like Ohio as my top bid stealer out of the MAAC Conference. Next, we have the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, otherwise known as the MEAC Conference. And we do have Norfolk State as first place. And I think they're the best team in that league, 100%. Howard is there. I think my top bid stealer in this league would have to be South Carolina State, though. South Carolina State, they're another team on a 5-game win streak. They're pretty solid at home. They're not so great on the road, though. But they've been playing better on the road as of late. They're on a 5-game win streak. And they're 9-4 in conference play. I think that they could beat anybody in this league. And yeah, South Carolina State, they could do it in the MEAC. Next up, we have the Missouri Valley Conference. And I think that we should get a 2-bid Missouri Valley this year. I think Indiana State and Drake both deserve at-large bids at this point, and we need to see them both in the tournament. They both have some amazing players. some amazing teams, and some potential to make runs in March Madness. I mean, I guess if I had to pick a bid stealer in this league, it would have to be Bradley, because Bradley is another good team out of this league. Northern Illinois is not bad either. Do I see any of them being able to knock off both Indiana State and Drake, though? I don't think so. I would be very, very surprised if it wasn't Indiana State or Drake. But if I had to pick one, I would go Bradley, maybe Northern Illinois. Next up, we do have the Mountain West Conference, and this is a conference where we're going to have to go over our at-large bids, because there are a lot of teams that do have at-large bids out of this league, and that is Utah State, Nevada, Boise, San Diego State, Colorado State, and New Mexico is on the bubble right now. But UNLV is the very, very, very obvious bid stealer in this league. I mean, they are killing it in conference play. They're 12-5 in conference play, 19-10 overall. Like, the fact that they're not getting at-large discussions is crazy. They are on a tear. They just beat San Diego State, and yeah, UNLV is absolutely killing it, man. They are definitely the top bid stealer, because I don't think that they're going to get an at-large bid. Unless they win this league, I don't think that they are going to get a bid. So UNLV definitely has to be the top bid stealer. As far as another team, I don't see Wyoming, Fresno, San Jose State, or Air Force winning this league. So it has to be UNLV. Or New Mexico. You could give it to New Mexico because technically New Mexico is on the bubble right now. But New Mexico could still get an at-large bid. So if we're talking bid stealers, I think it has to be UNLV. The Northeast Conference, we do have Central Connecticut as our top team in this league. It is down to, this is one of those leagues where the conference tournament has started, and we are down to Central Connecticut, Merrimack, Les Moines, and Wagner, I believe. I think those are the final 4 teams right now, and semifinals either start tomorrow or Saturday for this league. I'm not sure which one it is, but yeah, Central Connecticut is our top team. Merrimack definitely has a chance. I think my top bid stealer is going to have to be, I mean, really, Les Moines or Wagner. Both would be insane bid steals out of this league. They're both still in it. Possibly going to be able to get it done. I mean, those are the top bid stealers right there. Those are the two top. Those are the 2 teams left, along with the 2 top teams in the league. Those are your top bid stealers. Pretty easy there, considering it's already, in the semis. Next up, we do have the Ohio Valley Conference. How about Arkansas Little Rock, man? Arkansas Little Rock has been killing it lately. They're on a 9-game win streak. Also, UT Martin. UT Martin was a team that I had projected to win this conference in my bracketology in my last video, if you guys saw that one. I think UT Martin, Morehead State, Little Rock all have a legit shot at winning this league. Morehead State is probably the favorite. But other than those top 3 teams, of course, you got Western Illinois, you got Tennessee State that are there. But I would be very surprised if it wasn't one of these top 3 teams. Honestly, I'm feeling Arkansas Little Rock right now on a 9-game win streak. Just killing it, man. Turning up, getting hot at the right time is the way to go. And yeah, I think last time Arkansas Little Rock made the tournament, it was with Chris Beard as the head coach. And they were able to, who did they upset? They got an upset over somebody. I can't remember who it was, but it was a 12-5, I believe. Maybe a 13-4. But that was before Chris Beard landed the Texas Tech job the year before. So, yeah, I like Little Rock out of there. I would be very surprised if it wasn't one of those top 3 teams. Next up, we do have the Pac-12 Conference. Our only at-large bids here are actually Arizona and Washington State. Colorado's on the bubble. Obviously, the 2 ones that we haven't really talked about are Oregon and Utah. Those are the top bid stealers that I could see potentially winning this league. Yeah, Oregon and Utah could definitely do it. UCLA, it could be sneaky, but I doubt it. they were able to do it. I would say Utah is my top bid stealer. I might have to give it to Oregon, actually, because Utah, they haven't. I don't really see either of those teams winning it. I would be very surprised if it wasn't, two of these three teams in the Pac-12 championship: Arizona, Washington, Colorado. Some combination of those three teams will be in the Pac-12 championship. So I'm actually going to give it to Colorado, since technically I do have them out of the tournament right now as one of my first four out. I would give it to Colorado for sure. I think they have the best potential. The only thing is I just don't think that Colorado could beat Arizona. Both times they played Arizona this year, they got absolutely rocked. So, moving on. Next up, we do have the Patriot League. Colgate is running away, hands down, with this league. But let's have some fun and see who could potentially get a bid steal out of the Patriot League. Like I said, I think Colgate's got it. I mean, they're running away with this league. But, possibly, Boston, American, Bucknell. I mean, can we just appreciate the parity in this league? I mean, 10-8, 10-8, 10-8, 10-8, 4 10-8 teams in conference play after Colgate. I mean, any of those four teams really probably has a shot at potentially getting a bid steal. Somebody knocks out Colgate, and after that, it's anybody's game. I mean, who knows? Flip your coin who's coming out of that league if it's not Colgate. If they get upset, it's a wrap. But, yeah, I think Colgate's got it, man, in that league. SEC will be fun. I mean, we got a lot of at-large bids out of this league. We got Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Florida, Mississippi State, all getting at-large bids. I mean, top bid stealer, the obvious one, to me at least, is probably Texas A&M. Texas A&M, Wade Taylor, Tyrese Radford, they have such a solid team. Henry Coleman, such a solid roster. They had so much preseason hype. They can never get it done, man. Is it about time to maybe talk about Buzz Williams' job? Like, Texas A&M, it just seems like every year they're supposed to be really good, and they're either on the bubble or they're not in at all. So I don't know what's going on with Texas A&M or what happened to them this year. I would say, I guess that's my biggest bid stealer, because, the rest of the teams that are good in that league are going to get at-large bids. So it's them, maybe Ole Miss, but I doubt it. Arkansas, another team, they've just been very disappointing this year. Maybe if they're able to finally turn up and show up to their potential, but I doubt it. I'll go Texas A&M, though, as my top bid stealer. Shout out Missouri, 0-17 in the SEC. Another very disappointing team in that league. Dennis Gates, I thought that he was turning them around. He had him in the round of 32 last year, although they did lose to Princeton in the second round. He was in the round of 32 last year, and now he's 0-17 in the SEC. So, next up, we do have the Southern Conference. Sanford, you guys know that I am huge on Sanford. I think Sanford is such a solid team this year, and I would be very sad if they were unable to get a bid to the tournament. But if it's not them, I would maybe go Chattanooga. Man, I would be very surprised if it's not Sanford. I think they just have such a solid team, man. They're so good in that league, too. I guess if it's not them, though, I would go Chattanooga. Look out for Wofford, though. Shout out to Wofford. They had that one run where they had... What was that player's name they had on Wofford that was just going dumb in the tournament? Just an insane shooter, man. Yeah. Southland Conference. McNeese, again, McNeese is a wagon. 17-1 in conference play. They're on a 9-game win streak. 28-3. You could argue, I think McNeese maybe should get an at-large bid. If they finish the season with 30 wins, I don't know if a 30-win team should not get into the tournament. Even if they don't win their league. McNeese is the wagon. They're going to win this conference, but if it's not them, I think it's got to be Texas A&M Corpus Christi's. which is insane that they just won that league last year and was a 16 seed. Now McNeese could win this conference as a force and get a 12 seed. So, wow, just crazy. But yeah, McNeese is a force, man. I would be very surprised if they did not come out of that league. Next up, we'd have the Southwestern Athletic Conference or the SWAC. We do have Grambling State Tigers, who are in first place. Yeah, I like Grambling State a lot. I think that they've been playing better. They're on a 5-game win streak. Alcorn State is a team to look out for. Surprisingly good out of nowhere this year, which would be fun to see. I'd say that would probably be my top bid steal. There is Alcorn State out of the SWAC. Next up, we do have the Summit League, where we do have South Dakota State as our top team. After that, North Dakota, Kansas City has a shot. I do like this Kansas City team a lot. They've been playing pretty good as of late. I think if it's not South Dakota State, which is just, they're always good out of the Summit League, I'd actually have to give it to Kansas City. I was higher on St. Thomas earlier this year, but then I found out St. Thomas was ineligible to make the tournament. Also, shout out to Denver. They have, one of the top scorers in all of college basketball on their team, and Tommy Bruner, who is an absolute beast, averaging 24.5 points per game. What a stud. It's a shame that they're not playing better in conference and the Summit League, but honestly, let's give our top bid steal to Denver just because of Tommy Bruner. Who knows? He could just take over, man, because he's obviously the best player in that conference. So if he just takes over, we could see a Denver Pioneers bid steal. Why not? That would be amazing. Next up, we do have the Sun Belt Conference. Shout out to Marshall Thunder and her. They are absolutely horrendous, man. But yeah, they've just been so bad this year. Last year was supposed to be our year, but Dan D'Antoni will be fired probably at the end of the season. So hell of a career for him there at Marshall, but bittersweet moments. Happy to see you go, but we thank you for your time because you were a great coach for us. But yeah, let's talk about actual contenders because Marshall is not one of them. App State and James Madison, we could get a 2-bid Sun Belt this year. It is not out of the realm of possibility. James Madison might have 30 wins. And if App State beats them for a third time, though, are they going to get in? It's just kind of iffy, But I think both teams got a big-time Power 6 win this year. App State beat Auburn. James Madison beat Michigan State on the road, which is a little bit less impressive than Auburn, I guess. But, yeah, both teams got big-time wins. App State obviously beat James Madison twice this year. But we'll see how it goes when they face off. I would be surprised if it wasn't one of those two teams. But I followed the Sun Belt pretty well because I am a WVU fan and also a Marshall fan. So I keep up with Marshall quite a bit. If I had to pick another team out of the Sun Belt, I would probably go with Southern Miss. I think Southern Miss is a sleeper team. They could potentially do some work in the Sun Belt. I would be very surprised if it's not App State or James Madison. They are just so good. If I had to pick another team, though, I think for a bid steal, I'd probably go Southern Miss. Next up, we got the West Coast Conference. This might be our last one. No, we have one more after the West Coast Conference. Okay, so West Coast Conference, again, I'd be surprised if it's not St. Mary's or Gonzaga. St. Mary's has only lost one conference game, and it was to Gonzaga. Gonzaga's lost 2. One of them was to St. Mary's. The other one was to Santa Clara. Now, can Santa Clara get it done? Excuse me, I had the hiccups. Can Santa Clara get it done? I don't think so. San Francisco could possibly compete and maybe make a run, but I would be very, very shocked if it's not St. Mary's and Gonzaga. These two teams are very well coached. Randy Bennett and Mark Few, they have owned that conference. I don't see it going any other way this year or any differently. And the way that that bracket is set up, I mean, it is just heavily favoring the top seeds. So, yeah, I highly doubt it's anyone other than those two. Next up, we do have the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, and Grand Canyon has been favored all year, and the second favorite is Tarleton State. And Tarleton State actually is ineligible to make the NCAA tournament this year, which actually does really suck. Grand Canyon has kind of been struggling as of late. You know, they've lost a couple recently, but they're kind of getting back on track. They're on a 2-game win streak. It kind of sucks because, like I said, Tarleton State, they're on a 10-game win streak right now, and they're ineligible to make the tournament. So even if Grand Canyon and Tarleton State were in the WAC championship, if Tarleton State wins, Grand Canyon still gets in. So that kind of makes it hard to pick anyone other than Grand Canyon. However, there is a team that did beat Grand Canyon this year that I do think is a sleeper, and that is Seattle University. The Red Hawks are a decent team for sure, and I think that they could be the ones to get it done. Also, Abilene Christian, I think, also beat Grand Canyon this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I know for a fact Seattle did, and that is why Seattle would be my top bid steal. But again, Tarleton State can't get in, so I'd say it's probably Grand Canyon. If I had to go somewhere else, I would go Seattle, then maybe Abilene Christian. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know who, out of all of these conferences, every Division I conference in college basketball, we talked about them all. Which team do you think is getting a bid steal in the conference tournaments this season and going to lock in their spot that they wouldn't have otherwise into March Madness? Let me know that down below in the comment section. We got some other big things coming here on the channel very, very soon. Obviously, we're going to do conference championship predictions for all the Power 6 conferences, plus the Mountain West, probably the American 2, and then maybe some of the other conferences. We're going to do, we got a new updated full March Madness bracket predictions coming out tomorrow on Friday. We got a lot of good stuff coming. If you guys are a college basketball fan, definitely subscribe. There's no better time to do it than right now during March Madness. We're super close to 5,000 subs as well, so help your boy out. Let's get there. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.